Yesterday, while many people were celebrating the resurrection of our Lord and the redemption of mankind, the most significant event in the history of the world, our supposedly Catholic president decided to focus on a new holiday, which he inaugurated 3 years ago, the Day of Visibility. Because we just hadn't seen enough of these people. You know, we hadn't heard about them. The activists, they're just too timid and unassuming. So we needed more visibility. 3 years ago, Biden established March 31st as the date for the new holiday. And because it's not an actual federal holiday yet, he has had to reissue this proclamation every year. He did it in 2022, and he did it again in 2023. When the controversy popped off this year, defenders of the new holiday claimed that the day did not intentionally fall on Easter, the date of which changes each year. They're sort of right about that, but that's not the point. The point is, the new holiday did fall on Easter this year, and the liberals, up to and including the president, all leaned into it. The governor of New York lit up her state's most famous landmarks, the Empire State Building, the World Trade Center, Niagara Falls even, in colors. California Governor Gavin Newsom published a lengthy video monologue with his wife on the importance of cross-dressing to his state and to America. Joe Biden chose Good Friday, the most solemn day of the Christian liturgical year, the day on which Christ was crucified, to announce the 2024 feast that would be held on Easter Sunday. The way the date fell might have been accidental. The reaction, however, was not accidental. It was intentional. Holidays are holy days. That's what the word means. And the Day of Visibility is the liberals' new feast for their new religion, which, as is often the case, is a parody, a satanic parody of the old religion. Both religions recognize that something has gone wrong with human nature. Christians call that original sin. The religion calls it being born in the wrong body. Both religions hold that this defect in our condition can be remedied only through ritual death and rebirth. Christians call this process baptism, which crucifies the old man, frees us from sin, and gives us eternal life in Christ. The trans religion calls this process the gender transition, which kills the old self, then referred to as a dead name, then frees us from facts and logic, and gives us a different kind of life, albeit still mortal and statistically much shorter. The old religion has always been controversial, no more or less so today than 2,000 years ago. In the words of St. Paul, the old religion is foolishness to Gentiles and scandalous to Jews. Everyone finds it shocking. And fair enough. Christianity can seem like the most foolish and scandalous religion in the world until you compare it to all the other ones that have ever been tried. Certainly when you compare its supposed foolishness and scandal to the new religion that the liberals decided to exalt on Easter Sunday. But the Day of Visibility will come and go, and Easter will remain. Because a man has never become a woman, but a man really did rise from the dead. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. A bunch of Free Palestine lunatics interrupted the Easter Vigil Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. Does not seem to me the best way to win friends and influence people, but hey, they can run their own political movement if they like. Before we get to anything, I want to talk to you about Birch Gold. Text Knowles to 989898. The cost of living has already increased 17% this year and continues to rise despite interest rate controls. As our national debt continues to skyrocket, you need to be confident in the financial services companies you work with, especially regarding your money and future. Birch Gold is a proven industry leader you want on your side. They demonstrate how precious metal investments can fortify your lifestyle and retirement, even in turbulent economic times. Birch Gold understands that navigating financial decisions can be daunting. That is why their expertise, coupled with their customer care process, ensures that your purchase or IRA setup is a breeze. If you are considering converting an existing retirement account into a precious metals IRA, their dedicated in-house IRA department is there to guide you every step of the way, making the process feel as simple as a walk in the park. Birch Gold values your questions and concerns. Their team is always available to provide some clarity, whether it's about fees, taxes, rollovers, or the timing of the process. They're there to ensure that you feel heard and informed. I really like having a decent chunk of my portfolio in gold. Text Knowles, KNWLES, to 989898. Talk to one of Birch Gold's experts and claim your free info kit on gold. You will learn how to convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Best part is, it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. Just text Knowles, KNWLES, to 989898. That is Knowles to 989898. The clumsy libs, like Joe Biden and Gavin Newsom and the rest of them, they go full bore on the day of visibility. Even though they say, look, we didn't intend for this holiday to exactly line up with Easter. That's just kind of how it fell this year. Yeah, right. And then you doubled down, you quadrupled down. This is the first time most people had ever heard of this fake new holiday. And you did that. You capitalized on the publicity precisely because it was Easter Sunday, the date of a real and very important holiday. The slightly cleverer libs hedged their bets. So Nancy Pelosi came out, and first she tweeted, on Easter Sunday, as families Sunday morning, happy, good morning, good morning. No, she said, on Easter Sunday, as families gather in prayer for blessings bestowed on our communities and our country, may this holy season be a time of renewal, hope, and peace. From my family to yours, wishing you a glorious Easter. Okay, that's the normal one. Don't forget, Nancy Pelosi has been at politics for a very long time now. I think there's a picture of her meeting President Kennedy. She's been around a while. That's the normal one. The next one then was the post. So she comes out, she says, as Americans continue to face hate and harassment, it is more important than ever to stand with the community. On Day of Visibility and every day, let us reaffirm our commitment to uplifting people and ensuring a future free of discrimination. And then, just in case there was anyone she left out on Easter Sunday, she said she had to get a third holiday in there. So she tweets out, Happy Cesar Chavez Day. Cesar Chavez? Who's talking about Cesar Chavez? Lady, it ain't the 70s anymore. Okay, that is all that pro-worker, labor movement, Cesar Chavez stuff. That's out. But anyway, she just to make sure that she ticks all the boxes, she says, Happy Cesar Chavez Day. His legacy as a fearless and tireless champion for justice and dignity for all continues to inspire our nation. Today, his fight for better pay and protections for workers lives on as we work to build and realize a better life for all Americans. Okay. That one, I don't think. Maybe there are a few old school commies, the Bernie Sanders types who are part of the old left, the left that channels its resentment and envy into socioeconomic class warfare, not into racial and sexual class warfare. I guess those kind of people might appreciate the Cesar Chavez shout out. Otherwise, it's just the people who celebrate Easter and then the people who celebrate the Trans Day. And she's trying to appease everybody. But you can't appease everybody. Man cannot serve two masters. So you're going to have to pick. A holiday is a holy day. And a holy day reflects the things that you hold holy and that a society holds holy. It's not just individuals. If it were just individuals, we wouldn't have any federal holidays at all. The point is that we live in society and we all need to recognize that certain things are sacred and certain things are taboo. And we do these things together because we're a political community. And if we don't have anything that we hold in common, then we cease to be a republic. Because republic actually comes from res publica, the things that we hold in common. The point of the state is to pursue the common good, to do good and avoid evil for all of us. But now we've got these overlapping and mutually exclusive holidays. Which one is it going to be? If you ask the cultural executives over in Hollywood and in the news media and even at Cartoon Network, you know which one they're going to pick. They're going to pick the... Now, speaking of that particular political issue, there's a great new special out on the Michael Knowles YouTube channel, and that is Cross the Picket Line. You know, when I go to colleges, sometimes I get attacked, sometimes I get burned in effigy, sometimes they try to blow me up, and I frequently get protested, and on rare occasion, my producer, Mr. Ben Davies, is able to convince the people who protest me, yell at me, ask me questions, to come sit down and do an interview afterward. Well, that is what you will see on the latest episode of Cross the Picket Line, University of Wisconsin-Madison. Check out this short clip. Hundreds of people came in, they filled all the seats, and they were polite for almost the whole time.
I'm standing here now, a biological male wearing a dress with a pair of leggings. Do you sincerely believe that I should be subject to punitive justice on the basis of what I'm wearing? And if so, are you willing to turn yourself in for wearing women's panties in your gay college film?
I say almost the whole time because a couple students, one who called himself transgender and another who called herself non-binary, became a bit more pointed during the Q&A. I was happy to answer their questions. So happy, in fact, that we all decided to sit down and have a conversation after the event. This series is about finding one or two students with even a modicum of courage, some of them have a lot of courage, who oppose my views and they're willing to sit down and have a discussion face-to-face. Watch the full episode now on YouTube if you are planning to come protest my YAF speech at the University of Utah next week and you want to discuss our difference in viewpoints. Well, just find Mr. Ben Davies, my producer, and yell at him, and then we can sit down and you can be on the next episode. Before we move on to Beyonce, because I want to this is a very important story with Beyonce, but I want to put a little bow on the whole day of visibility thing, because I am of the opinion that we've all talked about the difference between men and women plenty, and it's a national disgrace that we even have to talk about this issue, but it's not me. It's not me pushing it. It's not Matt Walsh pushing it. It's not Ben Shapiro pushing it. It's the left pushing it. The left is the one that's trying to replace Easter with this weird day. And then the moment that we observe that that's a strange thing, they say that we're, aggressors in the culture war. We're not. We're articulating the view that has been held for a very long time. We're suggesting that the new thing that the libs are pushing is not a great idea. But why does this appear to have taken hold? There's a good essay in Compact Magazine, which is Sohrab Ahmari's magazine. I didn't catch who wrote it, but it's on the development of ideology around the world and specifically around the West. And it points out that this wokeism, which is just the new term for political correctness, is perhaps the one uniquely American ideology. America, we take parts of other ideologies, but we didn't invent fascism, we didn't invent communism, we didn't invent liberalism, we didn't invent any of these things. Political correctness, wokeism, that does seem to be something that we have made. And Emmanuel Macron, the leader of France, he said that. He said, we don't want that wokeism. That's an American thing. We don't want to import that over here. This is the French. These are some of the most left-wing people ever. They invented the term and they chopped people's heads off. I mean, they're crazy. But even they said, no, we don't want this political correctness. But why? Why is it? Is it just that, the cultural Marxists came in and scrambled our brains? Well, there's a little bit of truth to that. Is it just that, I don't know, everyone's so hooked on porn that they're all just getting these kind of weird sexual ideas? Yeah, maybe there's a little bit to that. But I think the deeper explanation is, and the reason why this has really cropped up as an American phenomenon, is because of an idea that in America you can be whatever you want. Here in America, unlike in the old world, unlike in the East, unlike in the global South, here in America, you can be whatever you want. That idea has some beauty to it, but taken too far, it becomes very, very ugly and grotesque. Like any other beautiful idea, if you blow away all of the limits, all of the constraints to it, it's going to run out of control and be very, very ugly. And the notion that in America you can show up here penniless, an immigrant from some other awful part of the world, and you can make it here, and you can have a family, and you can have 2.3 kids and a car in every garage and a chicken in every pot, and that's the American dream. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of opportunity in America. But even in America, there is not the opportunity to rewrite reality. Even in America, there is not the opportunity to liberate yourself from logic and fact and reality. And unfortunately, the liberals and the leftists have taken it that far. And is just the logical conclusion of that flawed premise that you can really be whatever you want. Well, if I can be an astronaut, if I, a poor kid from the ghetto, can be an astronaut, if I, a guy born in Massachusetts, can end up establishing myself in Colorado, if I can do all these things, well, why can't I, a man, become a woman? Because there are limits. There are limits. And that truth about American opportunity, if it becomes an ideology, the ideology of freedom from all limits, it's gonna drive you nuts. And you're gonna make an idol out of it. You're gonna make a false religion out of it. And you're gonna end up replacing Easter with the day. Not a good idea. Speaking of pop culture, Beyonce, I think a distant cousin, it would have to be, right? We share a last name. Beyonce has just rewritten one of the beloved pop songs of the 20th century. That is Jolene. Jolene, Jolene, the Dolly Parton song. She has not only done a cover of it, but she's rewritten the song. So the original song, I'm not going to do my Dolly Parton impression. I don't have my little short shorts and cowboy boots, but you know the song. Jolene, I won't even sing it. I'm just going to read it. Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 please don't take him just because you can. That's the original song. Here is the Beyonce version.
Jolene, 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 I'm warning you, don't come for my man. Jolene, 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 don't take the chance because you think you can. You're beautiful beyond compare, takes more than beauty and seductive stares to come between a family and a happy man. Jolene, I'm a woman too. The games you play are nothing new, so you don't want no heat with me, Jolene.
I hate to criticize my presumed cousin. This is a bad cover. She's got a good voice, the music's fine, but the change is really bad. Because what she has done is taken a song that gets to a real concern, a real aspect of the relation of women to other women and women to men and aspect of human nature, and denied it. And she's totally flipped it. The first version, the Dolly Parton version, is a pleading. Please, Jolene. You're beautiful, you're young, you're seductive. You could take my man, and I'm just asking you, as a fellow woman, please don't. I know you can. You have the power to do it if you want, probably. Because my man, he might love me and everything, but to quote Andrew Klavan, every man is 2 drinks and a wink away from ruining his life. And if you really, Jolene, you're so beautiful, you're so young, you're so hot. If you really wanted to take him, I bet you probably could. But please don't. And our modern culture can't tolerate that because we live in a modern culture of self-affirmation. We live in a modern culture of self-love and positivity. And you want end a modern culture of just asserting the will. This is girl boss. It's sort of like the shift from rest in peace, where you say, look, someone died. It's a sad thing. That's what happens. May he rest in peace. To rest in power. We're never giving up the power. I got the power, Jolene. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to chop your head off if you ever take. You can't take my man. I'm so hot. I'm so beautiful. I'm so powerful. Nuts. And it's just, it's just not true. The thing that's great about the original Jolene song is it kind of resonates for women. It kind of resonates for men. It speaks to something real. And this new girl boss queen bee, I never age. I never get uglier. I'm always the hottest. I'm always the strongest. That doesn't actually describe people's experiences. Now, speaking of looking hot, this is the perfect, this is maybe the best ad segue in the history of my show. You got to check out Genucel. Go to genucel.com/Knowles. Gen 90 is the skincare product from Genucel that not only addresses those pesky bags and puffiness under your eyes, but does so instantly. No more worrying about the effects of sleepless nights, stress, or seasonal allergies on your appearance. Gen 90 is here to provide immediate relief. Gen 90 instantly reduces the appearance of looking older anywhere you use it. Around the eyes, the forehead, crow's feet, laugh lines, and even the chin. You need to experience the luxury of Gen 90's technology. It's a paraben-free and silky smooth solution. You will feel the instant tightening as it touches your skin. Another testament to its effectiveness and your confidence in its results. Genucel has 400% customer loyalty to other skincare brands, and there's a reason for that. Right now, you will not only get Genucel's classic under-eye bags and puffiness serum with every Gen 90 order, but also their luxurious Genucel XV, a collagen builder moisturizer with vitamin C and hyaluronic acid in a pure natural base for stunning results day after day. You know, I love this company. I love the owner, Coptic Christian from Egypt, left for the American dream. Go to Genucel.com/Knowles right now for incredible packages over 50% off during Genucel's spring sale. See results or your money back. Order right now. Get a free limited edition spa box with bonus gift and free shipping. Genucel.com/Knowles. Genucel.com/Knowles. Compare the lyrics. I have the lyrics here. I'm neither going to do my Queen Bey nor my Dolly Parton impression. Dolly Parton. Your beauty is beyond compare with flaming locks of auburn hair with ivory skin and eyes of emerald green. Your voice is like a breath of spring. Your smile is like a breath of spring. Your voice is soft like summer rain. And I cannot compete with you, Jolene. Compared to, you're beautiful beyond compare. It takes more than beauty and seductive stares to come between a family and a happy man. Yeah, maybe. Jolene, I'm a woman too. The games you play are nothing new. So you don't want no heat with me, Jolene. We've been deep in love for 20 years. I raised that man. I raised his kids. I know my man better than he knows himself. I can easily understand why you're attracted to my man, but you don't want this smoke, so shoot your shot with someone else. You heard me. Okay. No, that's not how it works. Would that it were so simple. Would that it were so simple, but it's not. I wish it were the case that as women aged, men saw no difference. And one can have a happy, I mean, the one line here that's kind of truthful is, it takes more than beauty and seductive stares to come between a family and a happy man. It's true. I would abhor nothing more in life than cheating on my wife. The very thought of it horrifies me. My life would come crashing down. It would be awful. And why is that? In part, probably it's because I'm a happy man. But if you deny the reality that as you get older, your wife is going to get older, and that little 20-something is going to look hot. And when you've been married for 20 years and you're now in your 40s or 50s, your wife is not going to look as hot as she did in her 20s. That's just a fact. And if you deny that reality, you, the man, are going to be much more vulnerable to the predations of a young little trollop like you, Jolene. And you, the wife, if you deny that and you say just through sheer tyranny of will, I'm going to stop my husband from having red blood, you're going to be much more liable to the predations of Jolene. You're going to be much more liable to allow things to spin out of control, and everybody's going to be unhappy because this Jolene, I'm warning you, find your own man. Yeah, maybe. Jolene, I know I'm a queen, Jolene. I'm still a Creole Banshee, Bitch from Louisiana. Yeah, sure, you're a queen, bae. You bet. We're all, but time goes on. Life happens. A woman is not going to be able to count on her looks for her whole life. There's going to have to be something more. There's 1,000 girls in every room that act as desperate as you do. Your peace depends on how you move, Jolene. And then it's just all this. Me and my man cross those valleys, highs and lows, everything in between. Yeah, right. I know that's what makes it even more tragic if a husband cheats on his wife 20 years down the line with someone like Jolene. But Dolly gets it. He talks about you in his sleep. There's nothing I can do to keep from crying when he calls your name. I can understand how you could easily take my man. She could. But you don't know what he means to me, Jolene. And then here it is. The punchline of it. You could have your choice of men, but I could never love again. He's the only one for me, Jolene. The woman who's been married for 20 years, her youth is gone. That Jolene could have her pick of men, but her youth is gone. Really the only man for that woman is her husband. And if some young trollop steals her husband, then she actually is really in a terrible place, and it's a terrible injustice done to her. And if we deny all this, and if we act like Beyonce and say, nah, what are you talking about? Age doesn't change us. And even the difference between men and women, it's not all that different. It's kind of all the same. And I'm just tougher. I'm just stronger than you. So you back off. You're going to find yourself in a bad spot. And obviously, this version of Jolene is the version that comes from a culture where divorce is normalized, where we pretend, we tell women and we tell men that, if you divorce, if you split up after 20 years of marriage, it's okay. You'll just find someone else, and it'll be no different. You'll just be single again. It'll be like you're 21. You'll go to brunch again. Time stops. Nothing moves on. Nothing changes. It's no big deal. Men and women, they're basically the same anyway. Don't worry about it. No, women have a special power. They have a seductive power to them. That's real. You got to be on guard. If you're the wife, if you're Dolly Parton, or if you're the husband. We deny all this, though. We deny it at our peril. Is it any wonder that the thing that is supposed to be protected here, the family, the marriage, is falling apart? You're not going to be able to protect a thing if you don't even know what it is. Speaking of fighting the culture war, enough Beyonce for a moment. Great news coming out of Florida. I was just in Florida for Easter, for Day of Visibility, and Ron DeSantis just won a major victory. You remember a year, maybe 2 years ago at this point, DeSantis picks a fight with Disney. Actually, that's not fair. Disney picks a fight with Ron DeSantis because DeSantis has a socially conservative agenda. Disney decides they're going to throw their weight around in the state of Florida because they're a big player down there. And DeSantis says, no, we're not going to let you do that. And if you try to undermine the will of voters, we're actually going to take away all the special little protections that you've had for a long time. One of which was the Reedy Creek Settlement District. It was this special tax district where Disney basically got to govern itself outside the constraints of the state of Florida. So DeSantis comes in and says, yeah, we're taking that away from you, Disney. You want to start throwing your weight around and undermining the will of voters, you unaccountable lib woke corporation? Well, we're going to take your special tax benefits and your special self-government benefits and see what happens then. And of course, Disney sued, and they've been fighting this out in court for quite a while. Well, this kind of quietly passed over the past few days, barely made the headlines. Disney dropped the lawsuit. The governor's comms director, Brian Griffin, says, we are glad that Disney has dropped its lawsuits against the new Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, which is what replaced Disney's Reedy Creek District, and conceded that their last-minute development agreements are null, void, and unenforceable. No corporation should be its own government. Moving forward, we stand ready to work with Disney and the district to help promote economic growth, family-friendly tourism, and accountable government in Central Florida. Love it. It also said, so Disney was trying to attack Ron DeSantis 50 different ways, 50 different angles. And one angle was a federal complaint against him. The settlement also said that Disney might drop that complaint, quote, pending negotiations among other matters of a new development agreement between Disney and the district. So for now, at least, DeSantis won, Republicans won. And it's instructive because we've been told by some of the squishier Republicans in recent years that we can never win cultural battles by using the government. You know, we've been told that politics is totally downstream of the culture. Well, no, here it would be the culture downstream of politics, of the government, and it worked. We've been told that conservatives should never wield the government and use power that we've been given by the people, because then, hypothetically, the libs might do that when they get power, even though they already have the power and they're already doing it. Well, I think this would be a good example. DeSantis came in, he wielded that government power, and it worked. And now we don't have a million other left-wing governors trying to do the same thing as a mirror image. And in part, we don't have that because it's already happened. The libs have already wielded that political power for their advantage. Now we're just trying it out ourselves. How does this work? Except the difference is the libs wield the political power in a way that is unjust and immoral, and Ron DeSantis here is wielding it in a way that is just and moral. They're saying, hey, stop pushing the weird sex stuff on the kids. Biggest kids company in the world. Hey, cut it out, or if you don't cut it out, we're going to take away your special tax benefits. And Disney called DeSantis' bluff. DeSantis called Disney's calling of his bluff, and Disney backed down. They played a game of chicken, and DeSantis won. Great. I think every Republican governor around the country should emulate this. It didn't even take all that long. What did it take? A couple of years? All right, I guess that's a long time in politics, but a couple of years. You can do that in one term. Great, great stuff. Now, the rot runs a lot deeper than Disney, I'm sorry to report. Billboard Chris. Do you know Billboard Chris? Billboard Chris, a great activist I don't even want to say he's an anti-ideology activist. He is a pro-reality activist, and he walks around and he's just got a billboard. He says things like, boys aren't girls and men can't become women and that kind of thing. Well, Billboard Chris has just aroused the ire of the Australian government and, as a consequence, big tech platforms around the world. Billboard Chris tweeted out. I meant to get to this on Friday, but I really don't want to miss it because it's very important, and also because I called this 15 months ago. Hate to say I told you so. Billboard Chris says, the Australian government has ordered my tweet below to be taken down. X, formerly known as Twitter, can face a fine of up to $782,500 Australian if they do not comply. What was the tweet? The tweet was over misgendering. If you call a man he, and the man thinks he's a woman, or if you call a woman she and she thinks that she's a man, then you're guilty of misgendering. This was a policy that was in place at Twitter, where Twitter would censor you if you, quote unquote, misgendered, that is to say, correctly gendered someone. Then Elon took over. He got rid of the ridiculous misgendering policy. But the powers that be didn't like that. So the liberal political order actually did a runaround through the government, but even beyond the government, around the big tech platforms to get people like Elon Musk and Billboard Chris to take a knee. What this comes down to is something that I mentioned 15 months ago. Safety by design. The Global Alliance for Responsible Media, the World Economic Forum, the Australian government. I posted a long Twitter thread that Elon actually responded to last January, in which I said, hey guys, this is all great news that Elon is going to give us free speech back on Twitter. And by free speech, we just mean there are still going to be standards. There are still going to be things that are outside the bounds. But Elon's just going to restore the normal standards, not the crazy radical leftist standards. And I said, this is all great news, but the libs aren't going to lie down easy here. And here's just one example. This woman, Julie Inman Grant, who was the Australian e-safety commissioner. She previously had worked at some other big tech platforms, and she was too pro-censorship. She was too leftist even for them. So she got booted out of them. She finds her way, I think she's American, but she found her way into the Australian government. And she starts working on this project, Safety by Design. And as usual, the libs begin with a real problem, and then they really just use that problem, and the solution to that problem is a Trojan horse to fix all the other non-problems that they want to fix. So she comes in, she says, there's this problem. There's like child pornography and stuff like that on these big tech platforms. So what we need to do, we're not going to be able to constantly respond from the perspective of the technology to all the ever-changing laws that might pop up in a region or a country, either a continent so what we're going to do? We're going to build in the speech standards into the coding of the tech platforms themselves. And who's we, you might ask? Is it going to be Elon Musk? Is it going to be Mark Zuckerberg? No, it's going to be we in the Australian e-safety commissioner's office. It's going to be we in the World Economic Forum. It's going to be we in this new thing, GARM, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. And we're going to use international institutions like the World Economic Forum to impose it, to get governments on board, to get the big tech platforms. And the reason they're going to do it is if I, as the head of e-safety in Australia, say we're going to shut down, it's not just going to be child pornography. It's barely going to even involve really illegal, heinous things like child pornography. It's going to involve misgendering. It's going to involve COVID vaccine misinformation, also known as true information back during the COVID days. It's going to involve climate change denial. It's going to involve all these left-wing hobby horses and speech codes. And rather, Twitter's not going to be able to adjust its service to every single country, every single state. So we're just going to form this thing, this blob multinational institution, and it's going to be run by radical leftists, and it's going to have so much power and so much buy-in that people like Elon Musk are going to be pretty much impotent to stop it. I really hate to say I told you so, but sometimes, I'm not saying I use this term, I'm just saying sometimes people have suggested that I'm a little bit like Nostradamus and I can predict the future. In this case, it doesn't take a Nostradamus. It doesn't take a crystal ball to know this is what they were going to do. This is what they told us they were going to do. Now it is being implemented. And even the wealthiest man in the world, the most powerful guy in the private sector, doesn't seem able to stop it yet. So what do we do about it now? One thing we can do, we can buy a better deodorant. That's one thing that we can do just to improve our own lives. Jeremy's most requested item has been natural deodorant. When we released Jeremy's natural deodorant, it was a massive success. It's really, really great. I am very picky when it comes to my deodorants, even my colognes, antiperspirants. The Jeremy's one is great, and it is back in stock. This natural deodorant is free of chemicals harmful to your body like aluminum, parabens, sulfates, and phthalates. Gesundheit. Woke is toxic, and so are lots of deodorants. Kick out both when you get Jeremy's natural deodorant. Enjoy the salt, stone, and musk scent for men and the water lily and minerals scent for women. Ooh, that sounds nice. It is not too sticky. It's not too greasy. It's just right. It's really excellent. Get your Jeremy's natural deodorant at jeremy'srazors.com today. My favorite comment on Friday is from Pat Hacker 4963, who says, how did a shipping accident become a racial issue? Oh, this is in Baltimore, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, hit by that cargo ship and just comes tumbling down. It immediately became a racial issue because it was already a racial issue before the ship hit the bridge. That's why. You're trying to think of it in the actual chronology, which is ship hits bridge, and then the race hustler politicians try to turn it into a racial issue. It's the opposite. When all you've got is a hammer, then every problem starts to look like a nail. And for some of these race hustling politicians, every issue is a racial issue. That's the only lens through which they can view the world. So when the ship hits the bridge, or when Mayor Pete looks at bridges on the Long Island Expressway and says the bridges are racist, the roads are racist. That was the premise. And the conclusion is not something that is logically followed from the premise necessarily. It's just a restatement of the premise. Speaking of state things, and also speaking of the deep state, there is a new report out that the CIA is embracing gender ideology. Cliff Sims, I teased this story on Friday, but I want to get into it a little bit more. Cliff Sims, who has served as Deputy Director of National Intelligence under President Trump, has a new book out where he is exposing the propaganda at the CIA. The CIA apparently has an Office of Inclusion and Diversity, of course. That office has many posters, quote, touting its various programs and initiatives and proclaiming the importance of each officer's identity. It's so funny, the CIA, when you think of the actual spooks in the field, like their job is to not take their identity seriously. Their whole job is to deny whatever identity they personally feel in order to assume other identities so they can spy on behalf of the country. And now, just as with everything else, they've totally flipped it. Gone are the days of Felix Leiter and Boris and Natasha and all the spy versus spy. Now it's just going to be some hulking transvestite out there. Hey, Vladimir, can I have some secret codes, please? Can you tell me about the nuclear information? Sir, I will not. How dare you call me sir? I am a American woman spy, and you will accept. You are telling me you are a spy? Yes, I would never deny my identity. Anyway, he goes on. As I turned the corner to walk into the CIA's cafeteria for the first time, it became clear that the agency's diversity focus had a political angle as well. Trans lives are human lives, read the poster. Yeah, right. That's how it goes. None of this should be surprising. This is the state religion. Period. It's just the state religion. We're trying to figure out some tactical advantage here. They go on, they say, even in the case of the State Department, they try to pressure people to list their pronouns. They try to pressure employees' pronouns in all email headers, whether the employees liked it or not. They want to pressure them to share bathrooms and locker rooms with people of the opposite sex. Yeah, stop trying to think of, well, what is the CIA's actual secret advantage? No, this isn't unique to the CIA. Every one of these government departments, every one of the corporate departments in the country has a diversity and inclusion office, and they all adopt all this stuff because it's the state religion. And it's not much deeper than that, because that's as deep as politics goes. Because as Cardinal Manning points out, all human conflict ultimately is theological. So that's it. That's why if the CIA wanted to resist it, they would not be able to. We have this rosy image of the CIA as controlling the whole world or as being kind of above it all, but they're not really above it all. They're part of it. They have an office building. They have federal mandates. They have to abide by certain federal laws that push all this nonsense. And maybe they get a strategic advantage out of it. Probably they don't. Probably they just have to go along with it. Like in a confessional state, even the government departments that aren't particularly faithful or believing, they would still have the icons. They would still have the imagery. They would still use the language of the state religion. Well, that's what we have here. That's exactly what we have right here. Now, speaking of foreign affairs, some pro-Palestine people just interrupted an Easter Vigil Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral. This is considered America's parish church, probably the single most beautiful church in the United States. They decided to interrupt one of the most important masses of the year. Often at the Easter Vigil, people who have been preparing to enter into the faith, to convert, they will be baptized there. They'll receive the sacraments. It's a very important mass. And they decide to interrupt this to push their foreign political ideological campaign. Here it is. There they are. They're holding a sign. It's hard to see because there's a woman standing in the way. I'm waiting for a cleric to just go punch one of these people in the face. Though the clerics really are not supposed to do that. Maybe they could punch. They're not allowed to really kill people. They could. I'm thinking of the Bio Tapestry when Bishop Odo just starts smacking his own guys on the head to give them comfort. You know, maybe they could have used a little tougher love. But they finally dragged the pro-Palestine people off of the altar at the Easter Vigil. You want me to support this organization? You want me to support this political movement? I don't really see how I could. I don't think these pro-Palestine liberation people are so great at winning friends and influencing people. Certainly not winning a friend of me. One good step, if they wanted to persuade me of their view. Look, I'm an American, Christian. I don't have particularly strong feelings on the Israel-Palestine conflict. I have some thoughts about it. I've paid some attention, but I haven't paid a lot of attention to it. And each new war raises new questions. And so if they wanted to convince me that the Israeli policy, especially now that the Israeli government seems to suggest it will not be able to eradicate Hamas as the government of Gaza, then you could convince me that the war should come to an end. You certainly could convince me that the war should come to an end now that there doesn't seem to be a strategic objective in sight, now that the justifications for the war in the conduct of the war don't seem to really meet the criteria of reasonable probability of success or of proportionality. Yeah, you could convince me of that, but you're not going to convince me of that from the altar of St. Patrick's when you interrupt a mass. I mean, this has been the problem from the moment that this all broke out. Is I thought, look, I don't share the theological premises of either the pro-Palestine people or of the Zionist movement. I have sympathies. I have prudential arguments that one could make in defense of some of the agreements in that region, but I don't exactly have a strong dog in the fight. So when I have to make a judgment of how the war is being run, I have to use rules of thumb. I need to use like political coding here. And the simple fact is the pro-Palestine liberation movement is left-coded. It's the weirdos and the leftists and the anarchists and the socialists and the communists who tend to be supporting it. And the way that you see the expressions of this is they shut down traffic in Manhattan when I'm trying to drive from the airport, and they invade these churches. How is that supposed to convince me to support their cause? I really do not know. Which ties into another story that over the day of visibility, CNN couldn't resist. CNN has a big question here. Maybe we'll get to it tomorrow because we're probably running out of time. But the question is, was Jesus a man of color? Why this question matters more than ever. Of course, they're going to talk about Easter at all on Easter Sunday, so they're going to make it about race and some ridiculous historical point about our Lord and his skin color. But in fairness, it actually does matter somewhat. And it matters not just to the way we're talking about here about the politics of the Levant, but it actually matters to the faith and the way we view ourselves. And, well, this whole question of who we are and what our identity is and where transgenderism fits into all of that as the state religion. It actually does kind of come down to CNN, like a stop clock twice a day. It does actually come down to that, but we don't have time to get to it today. We'll have to get to it tomorrow. The rest of the show continues. Now, you do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.